For 30 years, Microsoft has been installing things on your computer that you never asked for, never wanted, and couldn't remove without a fight. In 1997, it was a cartoon paperclip that interrupted your work 400 million times a day across the planet. In 2015, it was an operating system upgrade that installed itself overnight while you slept, on a machine you owned. In 2024, it was a feature that took a screenshot of your screen every 5 seconds, stored everything you'd ever typed, and called it a productivity tool. 3 products, 3 decades, 1 pattern, and the same company that got caught running an illegal monopoly in 1998 paid $0 in fines and kept going, is the company that right now has Copilot embedded in 400 million Windows 11 machines, watching what you do, storing what you see, and betting that you're too locked in to leave. You've been watching this happen your entire career. You knew something was wrong every time a new Microsoft feature showed up on your screen uninvited. You were right. This is the story of how right you were and how much worse it's gotten. By 1997, Microsoft controlled 90% of the global desktop operating system market. Not 50, not 70. 9 out of every 10 computers on the planet ran their software. Windows 95 had launched 2 years earlier to lines around the block, people camping overnight to buy an operating system, set to the Rolling Stones' Start Me Up. Office was generating $9.4 billion a year. Internet Explorer had 96% of the browser market. That is not a technology company. That is a toll booth on the entire information economy, and Microsoft knew it. Steve Ballmer, who took over as CEO in January 2000, ran across a stage at a developer conference soaked in sweat, screaming, "Developers! Developers! Developers!" into a microphone. It was not a performance. It was a confession. The entire empire ran on one thing, making sure every developer built for Windows and only for Windows. Lock in the developers, you lock in the users. Lock in the users, you lock in the money. At its peak in late 1999, Microsoft's market cap hit $620 billion, equivalent to roughly $1.1 trillion today. They had 97.4% of the global desktop OS market. Internet Explorer had 96% of browsers. Office had no meaningful competition. Then the internet stopped being a place you visited from a desktop. It became the desktop itself. Google launched in 1998, Gmail in 2004, the iPhone in 2007, and suddenly the operating system, not the thing Microsoft had built everything on, stopped mattering as much as the services running on top of it. The U.S. Department of Justice had already filed its antitrust case in May 1998, arguing Microsoft had illegally maintained its monopoly by forcing manufacturers to bundle Internet Explorer and destroying Netscape in the process. The case settled in 2001. Microsoft paid $0 in fines. Zero. The most powerful software monopoly in the history of consumer technology walked away without writing a single check. That is the moment everything changed. Because the lesson Microsoft took from that case was not stop forcing things on people. The lesson was force things faster before anyone can stop you. And the first test of that new strategy was something so catastrophically stupid that their own engineers tried to stop it. They were ignored. On October 26, 2012, Microsoft launched Windows 8, and they removed the Start button on a desktop computer. The Start button that had been the central navigation element of Windows since 1995, the button in the Rolling Stones commercial, the button that 1.3 billion people had used for 17 years, was gone, replaced by a touchscreen interface called Metro, designed for tablets. What they told you, Windows 8 was the future, a unified experience across tablets, phones, and desktops that would let Microsoft compete with Apple's iPad. What they actually did, they took the interface that over 1 billion people had used since 1995 and replaced it with something that required completely different muscle memory, with no option to revert, and a full-screen app launcher that made no sense on a 27-inch monitor. The reaction was immediate. PC sales, already declining, collapsed further. IDC and Gartner both reported that Windows 8 had failed to drive any PC refresh cycle, the opposite of what Microsoft had promised investors. Surface RT, the tablet built specifically to showcase Windows 8, generated a $900 million inventory write-down in a single quarter. $900 million, written off in one quarter. I think it's fair to say that Windows 8 was not our finest hour, admitted Steven Sinofsky, the executive who had led its development, in a 2017 interview. He had already been forced out of Microsoft in November 2012, 3 weeks after launch. But here's what matters. Sinofsky left, the strategy didn't, because Windows 8 wasn't just a bad product. It was the moment Microsoft stopped asking what users wanted and started deciding what users needed. And the next version of Windows wasn't going to ask for your permission at all. In the summer of 2015, Microsoft launched Windows 10 as a free upgrade for Windows 7 and 8.1 users. The offer was generous. The execution was a war against user autonomy. In September 2015, Microsoft began automatically downloading Windows 10 installation files, gigabytes of data, onto Windows 7 and 8.1 machines, not offering, not suggesting, downloading, silently, in the background, on computers you had not consented to upgrade. In October 2015, Microsoft pre-checked the Windows 10 upgrade as an optional update in Windows Update. Users who had automatic updates enabled woke up one morning to find their operating system had been replaced overnight. Microsoft called it an accident. They fixed it after 1 week. The upgrade had already happened on millions of machines. In March 2016, Windows 7 and 8.1 machines began upgrading to Windows 10 with no user interaction at all. Not a misclick, not a misunderstanding. Automatic, uninvited, irreversible. And then, in June 2016, Microsoft altered the upgrade notification dialog so that clicking the red X to close the window, the universal symbol for no in every piece of software ever built, was reinterpreted as consent for a scheduled upgrade. Closing the window meant yes. A California woman named Terry Goldstein sued Microsoft after an unwanted Windows 10 upgrade crashed her travel agency's computer system. $10,000. Microsoft, generating $93.6 billion in annual revenue that year, appealed. Then settled. $10,000. That is what your consent was worth to them. By July 2016, Windows 10 had been installed on 350 million devices. Microsoft celebrated. They did not mention how many of those 350 million installations had been explicitly requested. In December 2016, Microsoft's own CMO, Chris Capicella, admitted the company had gone too far. Not apologized, admitted, past tense, already done, already irreversible. And once you were on Windows 10, the real product was waiting. It wasn't an operating system, it was a browser you didn't ask for, set as your default, that reset itself every time you changed it. If that made you angry, you should have been here for what came next. Subscribe, because we cover exactly this kind of corporate betrayal every single week. Microsoft launched Edge in 2015 as the default browser on every Windows 10 machine. Internet Explorer had collapsed from 96% market share in 2002 to under 20% by 2015. Killed not by Microsoft, but by users who chose Chrome and Firefox the moment they had the option. Edge was not chosen. It was installed. It was set as default. And when users changed their default browser, Windows 10 periodically reset it back to Edge without warning. The Browser Choice Alliance formally complained to regulators. The European Union's Digital Markets Act enforcement opened investigations into Microsoft's browser tactics in 2024. As of 2026, no fine had been issued. Edge's global market share, 5.3%, after a decade as the pre-installed, forced default browser on every Windows machine on the planet. Chrome, 65.7%. That is the market's verdict on forced adoption. Bing tells the same story. Microsoft launched it in June 2009, invested billions in marketing, cut deals with Yahoo, integrated AI, and set it as the default search engine on every Edge browser on every Windows machine in existence. In 2023, they invested $10 billion in OpenAI and relaunched Bing as the world's first AI-powered search engine. The press declared Google was finished. By 2026, after 17 years as the forced default on a billion machines, Bing held 5.14% of global search. Google, 90.02%. That is not a search engine. That is a rounding error on Google's balance sheet, 5.14%, after 17 years. After being impossible to avoid on a billion machines, Microsoft's response was not to accept defeat. It was to build something that made Bing irrelevant, because the new plan didn't need you to search, it needed you to be searched. On May 20th, 2024, Microsoft announced Recall, a feature for Copilot plus PCs that would take a screenshot of your screen every 5 seconds, store it locally, and let you search your entire computing history using natural language. They called it a photographic memory for your PC. Security researcher Kevin Beaumont built a tool called Total Recall in a single afternoon. It extracted and read the entire Recall database from any Copilot plus PC. Every website visited, every document opened, every message sent, including messages from Signal and WhatsApp, apps specifically designed to delete themselves. Every password field that had appeared on screen, every banking transaction, every medical record, all of it. Unencrypted. Accessible to any piece of malware that could reach the file. "I'm genuinely shocked," Beaumont wrote. "This is the most significant privacy vulnerability I have seen in a consumer product in years." The UK's Information Commissioner's Office launched a formal investigation before Recall had even shipped. Microsoft delayed the launch from June to December 2024. They made it opt-in. They added encryption. They added biometric authentication. What they did not do, cancel it, because Recall is not a feature. Recall is a data collection infrastructure. Microsoft has invested $10 billion in OpenAI, billions more in Azure AI, and staked the next decade of the company on AI adoption under Satya Nadella. Copilot is embedded in 400 million Windows 11 devices. Enterprise Copilot was priced at $30 per user per month at launch. The AI business needs data to function, your data, whether you agreed to provide it or not. Here is what 30 years of this actually teaches us. First, power without accountability creates contempt for users. Microsoft's pattern from Clippy to Recall is not bad engineering. It is the result of a company that has never faced real consequences for ignoring what users want. The 2001 antitrust settlement changed nothing. Windows 8 cost Sinofsky his job, but not Microsoft its dominance. The forced Windows 10 upgrades cost $10,000 in a single lawsuit. When the cost of ignoring users is that low, companies stop listening. Second, monopoly power does not guarantee product success. Bing held 5.14% of global search, after 17 years, as the default on a billion machines. Edge has 5.3% of browsers after a decade as the pre-installed default on every Windows PC. Internet Explorer went from 96% to irrelevance in 15 years. You can force installation, you cannot force preference. The moment users have a real alternative, they take it. Third, the most dangerous product is the one that collects data you didn't know you were giving. Clippy was annoying. Windows 8 was confusing. The forced Windows 10 upgrade was infuriating. Recall is different. It takes a screenshot every 5 seconds. It captures your deleted messages. It stores your banking information. It remembers every password field that appeared on your screen. And it was, until public outrage forced a change, on by default. The pattern started with a cartoon paperclip in 1997. It ends, for now, with an AI system that watches everything you do on your computer and stores it forever. You saw this coming. Every time Microsoft pushed something you didn't ask for, you knew it wasn't about making your life better. It was about making their business bigger. You were right. Microsoft bet that you would accept whatever they put in front of you. They were wrong. Tell me in the comments, what is the one Microsoft product you were forced to use that you hated the most, and what did you switch to?